So you need to use the multiplication rules are if you've got the same base multiplied together, you add the exponents. So this would be x to the 8th. If it's just one base raised to 2 powers, you multiply them. So that'd be x to the 15th. And then if there's division, you subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2. But it's easier when it's division to think of it as canceling. These 3 would cancel off completely, and you take 3 off of there, would leave you with 2 on top. If there's more on the bottom, all 4 of these would cancel, and since there's nothing left on top, you got to put a 1. And then you can take 4 off of that, would leave you with 3 there. Anything that is 0 power is 1. And if you got a negative exponent, you just move it underneath to make it positive. If it's on the bottom, like this one, you would just move it up to make it positive.
What if it was negative 0? I know it's a
If it's negative 0,
yeah.
the exponent, 0 is considered both positive and negative, so it would be the same. Okay? So, this one, they got the same base, so again, it's easier to just think of canceling. These 13 would completely cancel out with 13 up here, leaving you with 3 on top. And then if there is a number, you can use a calculator to figure it out, that'd be 125. Okay, everyone put their iPads away now. This one, nothing will cancel. This has a 2 for a base, this has an x. So all you got to do is take both of them to the negative first. So it would be 2 to the negative 4th, because you got to multiply, over x to the negative 5th, because you got to multiply. Remember, a power to a power, you multiply them. Since these are both negatives, you'd have to switch them both. This would go on the bottom. This would go up to change it from negative to positive. And then this one you can simplify. 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. Now, this one, they all have 9s for the bases. So there's different ways you can simplify this. On top, it's got the same base, so what do you do with the exponents? Add them. So that'd give you negative 6, negative 4 plus negative 2. On the bottom, a power to a power, you multiply. So that'd be negative 9. Now these both have negatives, so you have to flip them both. That one you could move up, this one you could move down, but don't forget there's still a negative that's all by itself out in front. So this would move up, this would move down, and now you can simplify. There's 6 on the bottom, so you could take all 6 of those off with 6 of those. Would leave you with 3 on top, and don't forget the negative is still there. And then you can figure out 9 to the 3rd. Is 729, but the negative would just stay there. Like that. This one also, you can move stuff around, or on top, remember when they're multiplied, you just add the exponents. 4 plus negative 2 is 2. And then that's 4 to the 7th. So now you can cancel. These 2 would cancel off with 2 of those. Since there's nothing left, you'd put a 1 there. Take 2 away from that, you'd have 5. So then you'd have to figure out what 4 to the 5th is. It'd be 1 over 1024. Here, you could simplify this in the parentheses. Negative 2/4 is negative 1/2 raised to the 5th. So all you got to do is take the negative 1 to the 5th and the 2 to the 5th. Negative 1 to the fifth is just negative 1. 2 to the fifth is 32. Now, when you got stuff for multiplying, remember when you multiply fractions, what can you do to simplify them?
Divide by the reciprocal.
Cross cancel.
Times, so
You can cancel up and down like we did here, or you can cross cancel. The 6 and the 15, what could you divide both those by? 3. So that'd be 2 fifths. And then the x's, there's 10 of them here, which you could cancel off. 10 there would leave you with how many on top?
7.
7. So there's a 2 on top, and x to the 7th on top. And on the bottom, this turned to a 1, and that's a 5, so that'd just be 5. So here, we take each of these, or you could simplify them if you wanted to. Both ways work. Negative times negative is positive, but if you want to simplify first, this would have to move down, right? So there's a 1 left there. So 9 of them and 5 of them makes, which is 14, right? So this would become 1 over y to the 14th, and it's still raised to the negative 14th. So you got to take the 1 to the negative 14th, and the y to the 14th to the negative 14th. So remember, when it's a power to a power, you got to multiply them. So that would be negative 196. So since these are both negative, you'd have to move that one down and move this one up. And then 1 to the 14th is just 1. So the answer would just be y to the 196th. Here we could simplify this first because it's in parentheses. A to the 13th and a to the negative 8th would make a to the 5th, because you add those two. And then that's raised to the 5th, which would be a to the 25th over a to the 31st. So these 25 would cancel completely. Take 25 off of that would leave you with 6.
Do you even know the lyrics?
When the heart beats down. Oh, sorry.
I didn't know you were singing it.
Till the leaves turn brown. That's in the fall, by the way.
I know I said something.
You don't say. You don't say, Gary, and you don't sing because of garbage.
That's a call out.
Good morning.
Wet and wild. Wet and wild.
Warm,
Wet
wild.
Wet and Gary. Wet and wild.
Do everyone a favor.
Okay. So these, there's lots of simplifying to do.
Oh my.
Remember, this is all multiplied together. So you can cross cancel, or you can cancel, reduce up and down. So look in this 7 and 21. You can divide that by 7 and you get 1. Divide that by 7, you get 3. What else can you cross cancel?
Divide
4 and 12, divide them by 4, and you get negative 3 and 1. What else can cross cancel? The y, there's 1 here and 1 there, so they would just cancel each other out. There's an x here and an x here, which means there's 2. And down here there's 4.
So there's 2 on the bottom?
So these two would cancel off completely, leaving you with 2 on the bottom, right? Now, so this is it. You got to do them a piece at a time. And you kind of try and be as neat as you can, so you can keep track of what you put. So on the top now, these are all canceled off, we just have a -3. These two are canceled, we have a 3y squared. So -3 times 3y squared is -9y squared. And on the bottom, we have a 1, an x squared, and a 1.
2x squared.
No, 1 times x squared times 1 is x squared.
Genius.
So for here, -3 and 15 would cancel. That would be a -1. Divide that by 3, get 5. The y's, there's 1 here and 2 there. So this 1 would completely cancel off. And you take 1 off there, would leave you with y to the first, or just y. And then the x's. There's 15 on top, 13 on the bottom. So these would all go, and then that would leave you with 2 on top, x squared. So on top, we have a -1, x squared, this all canceled off.
What, 2x? The 2
Oh, I forgot the 2, right. The 2 stayed, didn't need to cross through that. So that would be -1 times x squared times 2 is -2x squared. And on the bottom, this canceled, and so we have a 5y. This one, 4 and 8 will cross cancel. 4 goes into 8 twice. Then you can also cancel this way. 6 over 2 is 3, right?
Wait, what'd you?
So you can cross cancel here and get 1 over 2, but then the 2 goes into the 6. So you divide both these by 2. Then the x's. I've got 1 here and 8 there would leave me with 9. I've got 7 here and 10 there is 10. So 1x on the bottom. So I'll just cross those off to know that I... And then the y's, I've got 6 here. 11 and 1 is 12. So the 6 would disappear completely, and on top, take 6 off of that, you'd have 12 or 6 left. So all I got left on top is 3y to the 6th. And on the bottom, I've got 1x to the 1st, which you could just write as x. So, it's not hard, it's just there's a lot of stuff to look at. So you just want to do them, the numbers first, then pick a letter and do that, then pick the other letter and do that, however many there are.
Cool.
Gary's taking on 2 guys at once.
Dude, that's like me every day.
What did you say? Dude, only?
What?
Only?
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 Yeah. Sorry, I'm not scared.
Time's up by 3.
Oh,
Oh my
wow.
gosh. What?
I'm sorry. I regret
Yo,
this.
chill down over there.
Sierra, go get him.
Oh my gosh.
Yo, chill down.
Okay, so here,
I regret nothing.
what's added here is now we've got some negative exponents. So there's one more thing you gotta move around. But still, the numbers, nothing's gonna cancel. 3 doesn't go into 5 or 2. So you can't do anything with the numbers. The x's, the only thing we can do is move this one down. Because it's a negative. So it changed to a positive 2. And then this y to the 3rd, there are no other y's in there. So the only thing we can do is move the x down and then multiply everything. So on top, you've got a 5, this is gone, times 2 is 10, y to the 3rd. And on the bottom, you got a 3, an x, x squared, x to the 10, which would be 3x to the 13, because that counts as 1. 1, 2, and 10 is 13. So even though that looked complicated, there wasn't a lot to that one.
Holy wow.
This one, you could simplify this first because it's in parentheses, or you could square everything first. It's usually easier to simplify everything first. Carter, sit down. So, the 5 over the 8, you can't do anything with, and you can't cross cancel this yet because you got to do exponents before you do multiply or divide. So you got to simplify all this first. So, the 5 over the 8 is going to stay like that. This x would move up because it's a negative. So you'd have x to the second on top. And then these y's, there's 1 there, that would cancel with one of them, leaving you with just a y to the first or y on the bottom. Now you can square it. So 5 squared is 25. X squared squared is x to the 4th. 8 squared is 64. And then y squared. So now that I've done the exponents, then you take it times this. And you start canceling stuff again. The 5 and the 25 will cross cancel. Can divide them both by 5. 64 and 26, you can divide them both by 2. Then the y's. On the bottom, I've got 2 and 5 make 7. On top, I've got 3. So all 3 of these will go. Take 3 away from 7 would leave you with 4 y's, or y to the 4th. The x's, there's 4 here, 2 there. So these 2 would cancel off, leaving you with 2 on top. So again, you got to be kind of neat so you can remember what you got left. I've got a 5, an x squared, and a 13 on top. So you can multiply the two numbers. 5 times 13 is 65, x squared. And on the bottom, a 32, a y to the 4th, and a 1. So it's just 32 y to the 4th. That's about as complicated as these will get. Huh? Mm-hmm.
Obviously.
We're just learning it for fun.
Yeah, just for fun.
Oh, nice.
We don't have to remember any of this.
I know that.
You have real problems. This is how you earn your girlfriend.
We were happy about it.
You take that, Patty? I should say
Right.
Game meeting, so yeah.
I see this. I see this. It's like a happy married couple, and this guy's like, hey babe. He's like, he's naked in the yard, and he's like, Gerald, put that away before S4 comes in. He's like, he takes that for an acorn.
Stop kicking my chair.
So
Joey, stop biting Maddie.
here, there is nothing in parentheses, so you can start moving stuff around or canceling. First of all, the numbers. Remember, it doesn't matter if it's negative. It's only when the exponent's negative that you want to move it. So, since there's a negative, and a negative, what's your final answer going to be? A negative, because there's 3 negatives.
Yes, Kurt.
8 over 4 will cross cancel. You can make that a 2 and this a 1. The negatives would cancel. 6 over 3 is negative 2. You got to keep the negative. Then the x's. This is where you got to move a lot of stuff. This one would move up. This one would move down. So that would move up. I would have an x squared. This one would move down. I'd have an x to the 10th. So I've got 6 and 2 is 8 x's there. 1 and 10 is 11. So you got 8 and 11. So you'd have 3 on the bottom. Because there's 3 more on the bottom. Then the y's. This one would move down. This one would move up. and there's already one up here. So 5 and 1 is 6, 3 there, so there's 3 more y's on top. So on top, I've got a 2, a -2, and a y to the third. -4 y to the third. And on the bottom, all you've got is x to the third. So, you could have the negative on the bottom or the top. So again, instead of just crossing it off, you may want to just rewrite it right away. Canceling these off, 4 over 8 is 1 over 2. So I'm just going to go like this. It's probably easier this way. This becomes a 1. This becomes a 2. 6 over 3 is 2 over 1. Then I'm just going to start moving stuff down. I'm going to move this one down. This one down. This one would move up. This one would move down. This one would move down. And this one would move up. So if you rewrite it like that, then it's a lot easier. So on top, I have 1 times 2 is 2, x cubed, y to the 7th. 2 times 1 is 2. So what's going to happen to them? They'll cancel. X squared and x cubed will give me x to the 5th. Y1 and y squared is y cubed. So I've got 5 x's on the bottom, 3 on top. So I've got 2 more on the bottom. And for the y's, I've got 4 more y's on top than the bottom. So it's a lot cleaner if you just rewrite it like that and then start simplifying. So, on page 466, we've got 31 through 48.
He's actually putting passion to it. I'm not a stone cold heart like you. Dude, who? Your mom?
Exactly, she can't say anything that you're doing.
You've got the one and the other two, along with the face.
Prove it. Exactly. Yeah, I'm not scared. I'm sexy. 466.